Oh. Okay, so once you hit start webinar, people can join in. So I wonder if people were being told they couldn't.
Probably. It still shows attendees as 0.
Full house today.
Man, well,
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
well, I'll be ready to start on your cue, Ethan.
Yeah, I'm just when they did the workshops, we were given an attendance list, and so I knew who was showing up. But for these, I guess I don't know who's showing up. I'm gonna give it one more minute to account for slow internet, and then
Sounds good.
hopefully I should take less than a minute to get to say the housekeeping items. So
I'll speak fast.
you take the time you need, as long as it was within 25 allotted minutes.
Can do.
Okay, it's 11:02. I said I would give only 1 minute. So welcome to the Minnesota GIS conference. For those who don't know, these two hosts, Cory and Adam, we each have 25 minutes with a 5-minute Q&A session. As a reminder, there is a virtual social gathering place known as the Remo Exhibit Hall, which if you haven't received an email, please contact one of the organizers of the conference and they can get you that information. In order to maximize the time that each co-host has, I'm going to pass it off right away to Cory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. So for those of you that I haven't met before, my name is Cory Richter. I am the GIS manager at the city of Blaine. I've been there for a little over 5 years. Prior to that, I worked as a technician in the city of St. Paul for 10 years. Prior to that, worked in healthcare, and then I also worked in construction. So been through a few different industries, been on both sides of the management supervisor scale. And so here we are going to talk about hashtag squad goals. And what I will encourage is for folks to please, like, this is supposed to be interactive, so throw stuff in the chat, the Q&A. I've got multiple screens here, so you'll see me looking up and over. We'll keep this going. I don't believe anybody's able to unmute, so we'll just have to use our chat and Q&A windows. So first things first, ground rules. I guess I don't really have to worry about most of these because everybody's muted, but ultimately what it comes down to as we have this discussion, we talk about inclusivity and some of the different goals that we have. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we're being respectful of each other, and bottom line, just don't be mean. So long ago, when I was a young supervisor sapling and I was just beginning down that road, I was given a whole bunch of manuals on being a supervisor. And this is what I've done with my manuals. I have burned them. I have lit them on fire. I have tossed them out because what I have found is those are based on has some really old notions and some different things that just aren't working with the people that I have today. Now there are some good concepts, you know, I mean, obviously we want to make sure that our employees are getting recognition and these sorts of things, but we've gone a long way from the old days of these once a year annual evaluation rating systems where people would get graded on a scale of 1 to 5 and you wouldn't have any opportunity the rest of the year to hear how you're doing or anything else. And you would just get that piece of paper at the end of the year and that was that. And now what we're seeing is more and more people are moving into doing goal setting, weekly meetings, monthly meetings, stuff that's happening a little more often. So this is a visual I'm sure a lot of you have seen. And so this is where I am going to ask for a little bit of interaction with the Q&A or the chat. So one of those places. So who can tell me what these 3 pictures represent? What are the 3 concepts that these pictures represent? Just list them out. Or just, if you need to, you can also type in the chat. I have no idea. I want to make sure that this is working. Anybody? Never seen this before? Okay. Equity, equality, equality, removing the barrier, different forms of access to information. Nice. All right, cool. Chat's working. So we got really good answers to this and actually pretty spot on with what Adam wrote. I'll give you a different word though for removing the barrier. So on the far left where it's the 3 boxes of the same height and the fence, that is equality. Everybody is given the same things to try and access, regardless of their need for different assistance. In the middle is equity, where we're able to meet the person's needs. So now everybody is able to access. And then the far right, that's inclusion. So we removed that physical barrier, that one barrier that was preventing sight lines. So that's inclusion. So removing the barrier. So here's one more. Does anybody know what this means? No takers. This is revolution. This is when we just get rid of all of that stuff out of the way. We are changing the rules. We are changing the game. This is what revolution looks like. So starting with the basics, and we talk about squad goals, you know, the idea we want to make an inclusive workplace that people want to come to. Let's get down with the real easy one. Understand the value of pronouncing names correctly and using pronouns. So in the view of participants, you'll see that I have my pronouns, she, her, they, them. And before we get into a big debate about proper English and they, them being only a plural pronoun, the one thing that I'll tell people when they tell me that's only a plural pronoun, I'll be like, that's cool, but let me give you an example where it's also used as a singular of when I find out who went into my office and took the books without permission, I will be having a talk with them and they will explain to me why they did that. So this is all referring to a singular person and it's still using they, them pronouns. So we'll end that debate there. The other part too about pronouncing names correctly and using preferred pronouns. So those of you that know me, Cory, it's a pretty gender neutral name. And most of the time it actually gets assigned masculine. So I've grown up my whole life being called Mr., Sir, always getting gendered as masculine. I also don't even use my real name because most of the time people don't pronounce my name correctly. So I have stuck with just using a nickname, and that's how people have gotten to know me professionally, is with a nickname, because my name apparently is very hard to pronounce. So I made the choice long ago to actually no longer use my given name because I was tired of constantly correcting people. And like, this is a pretty low bar, to make sure that we're pronouncing names correctly and we're using preferred pronouns. Are we going to mess it up? Yeah, we're going to mess it up. But what do you do when you mess it up? You apologize and you correct. You do better, you change, you do better. How we speak to people will convey our respect for them, or even our lack of respect for them. I mean, we see instances of this all the time around us. Stigmatized language. Now, this is one that a lot of us get caught up into without really kind of thinking about it. And this is words that we have picked up within our method of our way of speaking over time, that until you stop to think about it, it's like, oh yeah, probably shouldn't be using those words. Things like crazy, insane, mentally ill, asking people like, what's wrong with you? Are you blind? Didn't you see that? Saying to people, didn't you hear me the first time? What did I do? Did I stutter? Making comments about people using assistive devices. We've all seen the person at the grocery store that is using a chair behind the checkout counter. And can you imagine how many times a day that person has to listen to, you're sitting down on the job? Can you imagine what that's got to be like for that person? So we need to do better. We need to make sure that we're not using these words, even though it may be something you might say, yep, I've done this for years. Guess what? We can change. We can make this better. We can drop the stigmatized language. Be intentional using inclusive words. Be aware of your biases and how that impacts decisions. And I'm not talking about just all the isms. I'm not talking about just the racism, the sexism, the ableism. What I'm talking about is we all have biases that we have picked up over time. And that affects how we view the world, how we interact with the world. And those biases can be just as simple as, I'll use an example. So my grandfather had hunting dogs, and he was very specific. He said, I will only ever have male beagles. Those are the only dogs that will hunt for me. Those are the only ones that work. Well, really, like, the only dogs that ever hunt are male beagles. But that's a bias. That's a bias that he picked up. And it might seem very simple, but these are things that get into our day, into our lives all the time, where we have these little biases that kind of stick with us. So we have to be able to kind of step back, drop those, and, be like, okay, this isn't always the way it goes. And you're going to mess up. Accept that you're going to mess up. But when you do, apologize for that. So one of the things that I talk about with people when just these basics, when I'm told that these basics are hard, what I'll say back to those people are, will you stop using strategic incompetence against me? And if you've never heard the word strategic incompetence, if you've never heard that phrase, strategic incompetence is when people choose, they choose to not learn it to better themselves, and they appear incompetent, and they appear incompetent in the hopes of you're not going to make them learn or do better or change. So strategic incompetence is something that happens all the time, every day. It goes with the stereotypes of the boss that doesn't know how to make copies and coffee and those sorts of things. I mean, I'm sorry. 20 years ago, when I started working in a laboratory, I learned how to make coffee and copies, and I can fix a copy machine with the best of them. So when that happens, guess what? I'm going to do it. I'm not going to pretend I don't know how. I'm not going to practice strategic incompetence. I'm going to do better. I'm going to change. And it's the same thing with this, pronouncing names, pronouns, all these things. It has taken me time, but you know what? I've put the effort in. I haven't continued acting with strategic incompetence. Intersectionality is a really big topic. I'm not going to like dive super head on into this. Just understand that this is a concept that's out there. It's been out there for a long time. You can read the original publication. So I'm gonna pop in the chat a link where you can download the PDF of this presentation. It has the link to the original 1989 paper about intersectionality. So this has been around a little while. But the idea here is that all of these different things about us as a person, our personality, that all affects how the world interacts with us and how we interact with the world. So that means not every one of us has the exact same experience. We may have some similar, some shared experiences, but everything about us changes how the world interacts with us. So that's just kind of the highlight there. So when you keep this in mind, you can't approach your team with this mindset that every single person that's on your team is going to have the exact same world experience because maybe they share 3 or 4 outward characteristics that are the same. They're going to have other characteristics about them that are going to change the experiences that they've had with the world. So back to burning the manual about how to create inclusivity in your team. Where I learned the best ways, the best tactics about creating an inclusive environment was at a UFC mixed martial arts gym. Worked out there for a couple years. It's fantastic. And actually, since we've got our video to work, I can show you my grappling gloves. So I still keep these around because one, it's a great stress reliever still to hit the heavy bag. And two, this is also a reminder of that time when I was at the gym, because there were things that they did intentionally to make that place be inclusive. And that's a thought that I've kind of kept with myself is, if I can go into a UFC boxing gym where people would normally be intimidated and not want to go in and stuff, and they can make it feel welcoming, they can make it feel inclusive, why can't I do the same thing in an office? I mean, you'd think that the bar would be a lot lower to make an office setting seem welcoming and inclusive. So going through the bullets here, the culture does start at the top, at the executive level. And for some of us, that may be an uphill battle. But you know what? We can take the time and we can make that, as people that are team leads, supervisors, middle management, or anything, we can take that, or even as a senior developer, you can be that person that sets that culture, that tone within your group. There's nothing stopping you from that. And when people say, well, are you sure you really want to go against what the executives are putting out there for culture? I'm like, yeah. So if my choice is getting sent to the principal's office or making things better for the people that work on my team, I'm going to make things better for the people that work on my team. I'll do my time in the principal's office. I have done my time in the principal's office the last few decades. It doesn't bother me. I will take that time. I will take that hit as long as I can make things better for the team. And that's a choice that you have to make, right? I'm not saying that that's the right choice for everybody. Everybody's got their reasons, but it's not that scary. Are we asking questions of the people on our team or the people that we work with? Are we asking them questions about, like, what would make this better for you? Do you need better lighting? Do you need more supplies? I mean, what are we just doing generally to make the area that they have to work in work better for them? And I know folks that are on my team, they probably hear me say 100 times a day, let me check the budget, let me check the budget, let me check the budget. I've managed to get the money out somehow for different, and it's little stuff usually, you know, like we need a Bluetooth receiver or some other things like that. But it's, yeah, I do it. I figure out a way to make it happen. There are some things I do have to say, we got to wait a little bit longer, but I'm going to make it happen. It's not going to just be like, nope, not going to happen. This is something that I also have to get better at is, are you taking the time to ask the people on your team, what can I do to help you with your project? What can I do to make your day better? What can I do to make your week better? I'm not the best at this, 100%. And if any of my team folk that are on the webinar right now want to call me out in the chat, please feel free. I will take it. But I try to do better with this, and I try to make sure I'm asking those questions. And you know what? They've started asking those questions back to me. And I got to tell you, it feels pretty nice to have somebody just take a second, look you in the eyes and say, is there something I can do to help you with your day? Very simple, but it means a lot when you're in that moment and you need, and that's just sometimes enough to just kind of stop you in your tracks and be like, yeah, you know what? Here's something. Or actually, even though it's a tough day, I'm doing okay. So ask that of your team members, ask that even of your supervisors, you know, what can I do to help you? What can I do to help make this better? Big thing at the gym. So we had all ages, we had all genders, we had folks that were long experienced UFC, you know, they were actually amateur UFC fighters. And there were people like me that were just going to burn off some steam. And then people would even send their kids to the gym. And there was an expectation that every time we were paired with somebody, we weren't using our position to overpower the other person. We were meeting with them and we were being respectful of them. So if I got paired up to spar with somebody that was newer than me, smaller than me, didn't hit as hard or any of those things, I was expected to not overpower them, to not use my position to put them in a bad position. Like if I got out of line, guess what? I had to do push-ups or I had to go run laps. Like that's what happened. And if I got out of line too many times, you would get sent, you would get sent out. I never did that because for me, I was always, you know, I would see this happen occasionally where you would get one big person that would just be, you know, they'd be all geared up for their amateur fight for the weekend. They get paired with somebody that's newer. And this experienced fighter would just be going like crazy on the heavy bag and stuff. And this new person would just, you could see them just recoil and hold back. And they were like actually frightened and scared of continuing on with what was really fun, a lot of fun doing mixed martial arts. And our instructors would intervene. The moment they see that, they would intervene and they would tell that person, they'd be like, you can't do this. You are scaring them. You are not making this accessible. And I've seen a couple of people get ejected because they just couldn't, you know, make it welcoming for others. And so, you know, another thing here of the equal treatment, right? The equal treatment for everybody. I don't know that equal treatment is the exact right word, but that's the best like phrasing I could come up for this. It basically comes down to you don't get to be disrespectful just because you're considered irreplaceable. It's not in the cards for you. So I know I'm running short on time here, but what we're going to do is we're going to pay attention to the things that are happening around us. You know, if we see that somebody is in need of some help, we sometimes have to be the person that steps forward to offer that help. We can't always wait for the person to come to us because maybe it's something over time, like it's kind of been drilled into them. Don't ask for help, don't do this, don't do that. And they just don't feel comfortable stepping forward and doing that. But you are the one that can step forward and do that. Proactive improvement, being adaptive to the situation. What's really interesting is your success is going to breed success. If you have a team that is known for the inclusivity, for the fact that you are giving your team members the ability to explore, to expand, to improve, that's going to attract people that want that same thing. The people that aren't going to be supportive of inclusivity, the people that aren't going to be supportive of using proper pronouns and pronouncing names and stuff, guess what? They're going to self-select themselves out of joining my team. Because when I make it known that you are expected to treat people with respect, you are expected to do the following things, there will be some people that are going to say, I'm out, can't do it. But there are going to be a lot more people that are going to be like, I'm interested. Having that inclusivity is going to get your diversity. You're going to break those stereotypes of your industry, because people are going to come find you because they're going to hear about how you're doing it differently. So remember, I burned that manual because I wanted to do it differently. And giving people space and time so that they know their voice is being heard, that they're given that latitude, that ability to explore, expand, improve, those are the things that you're looking for. But ultimately, like I said in the very beginning, if you mess up, it's okay. Just apologize and do better. We did the things we knew back then because that's what we knew. But we do better today because we know better. And if that is the mantra that you can take forward with anything as you work with your teams, your employees, your coworkers, and everything, that's what's going to help you create this more inclusive environment. That's going to get you to that point of where you can say hashtag squad goals. And for those of you that are out there on Twitter and stuff. So that's it. Now time for questions. Nobody wants to talk to me? Thank you, Adam. It's going to add the URL for the PDF so folks can download it. So if you want to grab any of the bullet points, and also there's the link to the paper on intersectionality. Let me make sure I actually paste it in the whole, there we go. Goes to everybody. And of course, this is recorded, so this is going to be out there for folks to see me making all my faces and talking with my hands.
Yeah, I was able to turn it back on. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and get started on the second part of this. Thanks again to Ethan and Cory. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see that. And my name is Adam Carnow. I'm a community evangelist with Esri. I'm coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. I sure wish I could be in person with everybody up in Minnesota. I've been to Minnesota before, really enjoyed it. It's a beautiful place, and I would always look for an excuse to get back up there. So maybe I can get back up there once this pandemic's over and support your more events in your community up there, because it's an important. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually shut off my camera, because you don't need to be focusing on me. You need to be focusing on the slides. So I've got a lot to get through, so I'm just going to go ahead and get going. I'm here to talk to you about the alignment of GIS to your business, what it is, why it's important, and how to do it. And to be considered a successful enterprise GIS, you've got to deliver value to the organization, and that value has to be recognized by your leadership. So in order to do that, you have to align your GIS with your organization's business. You have to make sure you're supporting the work that the leaders believe is most important. So this is the core of a winning geospatial strategy, which is a business strategy. So this presentation is going to show you what this alignment is, why it's important, how to do it, and also highlight a couple of real world examples on successfully aligned enterprise GISs. So when I'm talking about alignment, let's talk about the the dictionary definition of align. The verb is to bring into line, to array on the side of or against a party or cause. The intransitive verb is to get or fall into line, to be in or come into precise alignment or correct relative position. Let's look at some synonyms for alignment or aligned, and that means everybody's coordinated, they're unified, they're united, they're collaborating, they're cooperating, they're participating in teamwork, and they're working in harmony. But I think of in the context of business at an organization, I think the leaders at the top really hope that everybody in the organization is working together towards a common goal, because every organizations have goals, and the only way they're going to achieve them is if everybody's working together towards those common goals. And so this alignment is really critical to being fully successful in delivering the full potential and value of enterprise GIS to your organization. So let's look at this alignment to your business a little bit closer and why it's important. And the easiest way to describe how to do this is to start with the goals. So again, every organization has goals. You can find them in the strategic plan for the organization. Quite often they're on the website, et cetera. They'll have usually some sort of mission and vision, and then some goals or sometimes objectives and policies that follow those up, whatever they are. Find the goals that are written down somewhere. Maybe they're key performance indicators, whatever it is. Find out what the goals are for your organization and understand them. Then once you understand them, you want to talk to the people in your organization, the executives that are actually in charge of meeting those goals. And what you want to do is talk to them and say, what challenges are you experiencing that are preventing you from or making it harder to achieve your goals? And understand that the problems they're dealing with, because then what we want to do is, once we've gone back and figured out ways that maybe GIS could help mitigate those challenges, is we want to propose to them these business-driven GIS solutions and say, hey, I've got a way where we can use GIS to help remove that challenge so that you can more easily meet your goal. And if you are successful in doing that, you get business value of GIS, and you will have been aligned because the organization is now achieving its goals. And you will get recognition from those executives who have personally experienced the benefit of GIS. And what that will do is they will support you in your GIS program a lot better. You'll get access to more resources, more hardware, more software, more funding, more staff, et cetera. So it's this simple as how to actually align your work with the business. So what I'm going to do is show you an example of a real world organization that's done a very good job at this. And so this is North Carolina. The organization I'm going to highlight is Cabarrus County, North Carolina. They're just to the northeast of Charlotte. So that county to the southwest of Cabarrus is Mecklenburg. That's where I am. That's where the city of Charlotte is. Cabarrus is just outside. The population is about 215,000 of Cabarrus County. They're part of the Charlotte MSA. They are primarily known as a bedroom community, but they do have a lot going on. They have their own identity. They have their own industries. They're growing. They've got some historic, significant places to visit. They've got some great arts and music, et cetera. So that they do have a great, well-defined culture and community. But what I really want to do is focus on the county government organization and this alignment for their GIS group. So this is the Cabarrus County website, if you went there and checked it out. And interesting, I didn't know this until I actually did some research on their website, but Cabarrus County is credited with being one of the first counties in the country to provide GIS mapping via the internet. And so what this tells me is that they have, for a very long time, established a culture of innovation. They are not one of those organizations that says, oh, that's just the way we've always done it. We don't need to change. It works. We're all good. No, they are innovative, and they're consistently been ranked in the top 10 counties in the entire United States for their innovation for 9 straight years. So the first GIS mapping on the internet goes a lot further back than 9 years. So this culture of innovation has been around for a long time, and that's a very hard thing to establish. And it's really impressive that to see a local government not only establish that culture, but to maintain it as long as they have. And you'll see more about what they're doing today. As I mentioned, they consistently win all kinds of awards, whether they're from NACO, which is the National Association of Counties, or from other organizations. Cabarrus County is usually right there. And one of the most significant awards that's given out every year is the Digital Government, Digital County Survey Awards. And Cabarrus County has been recognized for the last 3 years, so in 2019, 2020, and 2021. And in these awards, they're given based on population categories. So Cabarrus County falls in the 150,000 to 250,000 population category. And so this is the description off of the government technology website for this year's awards. And you can see that in this description as to why they won the award, the reason is alignment. So you can see the word alignment or aligned is in there 3 times in that one short paragraph. It's really just 3 sentences. So this success of enterprise IT at the county is because of the alignment, and the GIS falls right into that as well. And so I know most of us have heard this quote, teamwork makes the dream work, and I had as well. But when I started looking for things, resources for this presentation, I had never heard the rest of that quote. And that is, but a vision becomes a nightmare when the leader has a big dream and a bad team. So the important thing to realize here is that it is a team effort to be successful with any kind of enterprise IT like GIS in an organization like Cabarrus County. And so Esri has been working with organizations for decades all across the globe in all kinds of industries. And we've helped them create geospatial strategies that help them align and become more successful. And the first step in that is to assemble your team. And your team must have these 3 positions staffed. First of all, technical leadership. You've got to have your IT director, your CIO, whatever their title is, the person that leads the technical capabilities of the organization must be in your camp. They must understand the value of GIS, the potential of it, and they must help you implement it according to best practices, and so it aligns with their work and the organization's work, and then help open doors to you to reach these executives and to get their support. The next one is an executive sponsor, and I would actually say executive sponsors, because you want as many of these as possible, because you don't want to hitch your cart to just one horse, because if that horse leaves the organization, your cart's going nowhere. So you need to constantly think of it as a garden, tending your garden of executive sponsors, constantly weeding it out and seeding it and watering it and finding new ones and planting new ones. So we want as many executive sponsors as possible. And these are executives, leaders in the organization. They have power, they have access to resources, they have good relationships with powerful people around the organization. They're the kind of people that can make things happen. So we want to convince them to understand the value of geospatial technology and how it can help the organization, and they need to be a big supporter of you. And then a lot of you on this call might be the champion. So the champion is the person whose ultimate job is to expand geospatial technology within the organization to help it get its work done. And that's the person that's going to be at the point of this, that's going to drive this through the organization. So those 3 roles are really what you need to have to put a geospatial strategy in place and to do this alignment. So let's look back at Cabarrus County and look at these roles. And we'll start with the executive sponsor. And Debbie is just one of them. So this is Debbie Brannon. She's the area manager of innovation. She's an amazing professional, again, award-winning, and a big part of the reason why this county is so well recognized as one of the best in local government in the country. And she's a huge supporter of GIS at the county. Next is the technical leadership, and that's Todd Shanley. He's the CIO at the county. Now, Todd is our ace in the hole. He's our mole, maybe our spy, our implant, our plant, because one of the great things that we've got going here at Cabarrus County is that Todd started at the county over 20 years ago as a GIS intern. So Todd comes out of the GIS industry. And to have a technical leadership, an IT director that used to be a GIS person is just incredibly huge advantage, because they by nature understand the value that GIS can bring to an organization like the county. So he's a huge supporter. And lastly, but certainly not least, is the champion, and that's Joe Battinelli. And one of the things I'd like to point out here is look at Joe's title. So he is supervisor of the Business and Location Innovative Services Department. Notice it doesn't say GIS department. And this is one of the big things that, for those of you that follow me, have heard me talk before, that I talk a lot about, and that is rebranding of GIS. I don't think we should be using GIS in our titles or in the names of our departments, because that's the tool we use. It's not what we do. Like, you don't see a spreadsheet department, you shouldn't see a GIS department. We should be named for what we're doing. And so certainly Cabarrus County realized that, and because too many people hear GIS and think, oh, those people make maps, and maps are valuable, and making maps is a very hard valued skill, but if you've got access to data and analytics and an enterprise GIS, you should be doing a lot more than making maps. So again, one of the things that Cabarrus has done is rebranded Joe and his group into the term that best describes what they're doing, and that's business and location innovative services. And as I talked to Joe after I put this presentation together and got him to approve it and to help me finish it up, he gave me an update. He had just hired a brand new GIS analyst, and that person's full-time job is to be externally focused, to go out and meet with the departments, build relationships with them, understand their work, find out what their challenges are, so that that person can come back with just a laundry list of opportunities to expand the use of GIS to the county. And that is critical to be successful with GIS and alignment to the organization. You have to understand your organization. So every GIS department should have a position or multiple positions like that. IT usually calls that a business analyst. Also, he's got 2 GIS staffers that are working on their master's degree in GIS, and they're having to do their capstone projects on city projects for cities within the county. And that brings on a lot of mutual benefits. It's helping the students out, it's helping the cities out because they're getting free work, GIS work. And then, of course, it's helping professionally develop those staffers for the county. So a really, I think, forward-looking group here at Cabarrus County. So how do you align your GIS to your business? Again, it's those 4 circles: understand the goals, understand the challenges, provide business-driven GIS solutions, and that gives you business value of GIS and achieves this alignment. So let's look at how Cabarrus County has done this. First, let's look at the goals. Well, if you go to the website at Cabarrus County, you can find their strategic plan online. Let's put this into motion. And so you can see their mission, their vision, you can see their goals and their objectives. And they're separated out by different priorities: health and safe, community, culture and recreation, et cetera. And these are not unique. You know, many counties have similar types of goals and objectives and that they're doing in policies. But it's important that you understand exactly what these are. And then you, again, need to figure out who's in charge of those so that we can go talk to them to learn their challenges. Again, that next part. And so here's a picture of me presenting to all of the executives of the county. The reason being is we were getting ready, Esri was getting ready to come in and meet with every single department so that we could learn their challenges and their goals and their workflows and their pains and their vision, so that we could adequately come back with recommendations for how the GIS technology should be used to help the organization meet its goals. And what we wanted to do is that, you know, each of these department heads was going to get a request from some of their staff to attend these meetings with us and the GIS staff to learn these challenges. And we wanted them to be supportive. We didn't want them to be like, oh my gosh, why are these people taking time out of my people's day? They're very busy. So what we wanted to do is get their support. So the idea here was to get them excited about the potential for GIS to help them achieve their goals. And it worked really well, because afterwards we had a couple of department heads come up afterwards and say, look, I know we've only got an hour scheduled for that upcoming meeting to learn about how GIS can help us. Can we double it or triple it? Because you've got my mind really racing now and I'm really excited. So this really helped make sure the managers were on board. It also made sure that they told their employees to take this seriously and to really give it their all. And sure enough, when we went and did the meetings, they were really, really well done, and we got a lot of information. So now is the part where we're going to deliver GIS solutions. And I just want to make sure you're aware of all of the resources that Esri has available to you, because when we're going to do these solutions, we want to make them sustainable. So we want them to make them as inexpensive as possible, which means you don't want to be creating a lot of custom applications with custom coding, because those have a high total cost of ownership, because you've got to feed them and clothe them and educate them like a child. Like, once you write code, if there's an update to the OS or to ArcGIS, it might break them. And so you're constantly running around trying to keep them up and running. So you want to make sure you're using our ArcGIS solutions, which hopefully you're aware of this collection. There's over 100 of these. They're the largest collection of SaaS GIS solutions in the world. They're free, they're open source, they're supported, they're constantly updated. And you can deploy a lot of these right in ArcGIS Online, which has no need for any on-premise software infrastructure. They've got a good community going. You can sign up for their newsletter and their meetup. And then again, don't just think about the technology here. You may need training. You might need to learn something new to implement these solutions. So always think about getting training and including that in the project. You might need help. All of the best GIS shops that I've seen across the country all get help. Nobody knows how to do it all and does it all themselves. You can reach out to Esri Consulting Services. You can reach out to our partners. We've got a lot of great partners around the globe. I know we've got a lot in the Minnesota area. I know ProWest is up there and others. So reach out to them, and then they also show off their services in the ArcGIS marketplace. So after we did this, they already had some applications, but they put out some other applications. This is a shot of the GIS library, their public access GIS apps library, available on the Cabarrus County website. But then Joe wanted me to highlight a few. This one's really interesting. This is their emergency rental assistance program application. This is not a GIS app and it has no GIS interface, but GIS is buried within this app because the Enterprise GIS group has plugged in their address validation service. So this is a way to distribute over $10 million of federal funding to help residents within the county during the pandemic to meet their rent bills, to pay their rent bills. So this is critically important application to the executives at the organization. So they want to make sure this runs as smooth as possible. So when you go in here to fill out your application, you put your address in, and the Enterprise GIS's address validation service will validate whether or not that address does reside within the county, and then it will let you go ahead and finish out your application. Another critically important application for the county, especially related around the economy and tax revenue, is looking at all the foreclosures. So this is the foreclosure web application that the county uses to track which properties have been foreclosed on in the county and to help them through that process so they can re-enter the real estate market as a non-foreclosed property. They've also deployed some more solutions from Esri. Here's their impact planning report around the pandemic that shows updated demographics about how the economy is dealing with the pandemic, or how the pandemic has affected the economy in the county. Another interesting application is this one here, which is showing Narcan deployment in a density heat map over time. Narcan is a medication that's given to someone who's dealing with an opioid overdose, usually by an EMT. And so what this is showing is the location of where the EMT responses have had to use Narcan across the county. So basically it shows you where your opioid epidemic overdose problems are happening across the county. And so what this shows is it's important is I think a lot of us have data with timestamps, and too often we're not using the time value as an effective way to visualize the data. Because if you're going to understand something complex like an opioid overdose pandemic, you need to not only understand where the things have happened in the past, but where they're happening recently, and then maybe be able to extrapolate where they're happening down the road so that we can adequately address the problem. Another interesting application is this biodiversity dashboard. So people at the top are very concerned with the natural resources in the county and protecting them. And so this shows all the observations of species of interest, both plant and animal species, and the data observed, et cetera. So I think this is a pretty cool app. I've never seen one like this at the local government level. All right, so that's how you do the alignment. You learn the goals, you learn the challenges, you apply business-driven GIS solutions, and that equates to business value and alignment. And I want to give you another example here of an organization that's well aligned and what happened there. And that's Bonneville County, Idaho. This is in the southeast part of Idaho. They have a population of about 115,000. Idaho Falls is the county seat. And back in 2015, they started with a single GIS professional. And then not long after that person was there, they know that the county is quite often hit every year with wildfires. So she contacted Esri and got some help in deploying our ArcGIS solutions for wildfire response. And this really revolutionized and digitally transformed their organization, because prior to this, they had done everything manually with paper and pencil. And so sure enough, right after that, they did get hit with a wildfire. But as a result of the applications that they deployed, the GIS app, the county provided a better emergency response experience to the end users than they ever had in the past. And it really just revolutionized the way they attacked this. And so that, plus some other great high business value work that was aligned with what the leaders at the top were very concerned about, it convinced the county leadership to add 5 more full-time GIS staff members to the organization. And that is amazing, because we all know how hard it is to get a brand new full-time employee position approved, especially for a county that's only 115,000. It's not that huge, but it just shows you that if you really align your work and the people at the top understand the value of what you can do, they will find the money to do that. And so really just an amazing story. All right, the next thing I want to show is, if you seek to do this in your organization, you're going to need to be presenting to executives and asking for their sponsorship for these solutions that are going to help them meet their goals. And I've seen some people struggle there. And so I'm going to show you a template that Esri uses to present to executives for this. And I think it's really effective, because executives don't have a lot of time and they're usually not interested in the details of technology. So you need to whip through this pretty fast. And you could do this probably in 10 to 15 minutes with just 2 slides like these. So the first one attacks the problem. I'm going to put a problem that's a real one from a few years back, and that's that the Federal Highway Administration mandated that all public agencies have to establish and implement a method to maintain traffic sign retroreflectivity. And the cause of that problem is that the nighttime crash rate is 3 times the daytime crash rate. So improving sign visibility helps everyone. And so the negative business impact is, if we fail to adhere to that mandate and standards, we're going to get reduced sign visibility over time as the signs wear out, which will increase in crashes and increase the liability to the organization. So my second slide is the solution. We're going to solve it by implementing a GIS-based sign inventory and management system. And the positive business outcome is it'll fully comply with the mandate. We'll get improved sign visibility, reduce crashes, and limit liability. We'll increase efficiencies and support better decisions around the entire sign management process. The last part is the scheduling cost, simplified schedule, and we want a total cost of ownership, or TCO. So we want to include hardware, software, any workforce development, also known as training, any change management that will help people adopt this technology, and then any external assistance, whether it be from Esri or partners or both. And that's really all it takes to do something like this, is to present this in 2 slides, 6 boxes to an executive, little Q&A, you should be on your way. All right, so now I'd like to wrap it up with some resources. Another part of this is not only providing the value, but actually getting recognized for the value. So I'll send you guys will have access to these slides that are hyperlinked. I recently gave a webinar on communicating the value of GIS, because what this means is you can't just deliver the value and not get recognized for it. So you need to make sure that every time you do a project in GIS, you're documenting the value you provide, and then you're publicizing that out both internally and externally, so that people are aware of what value you provided and that you were the source of it, your program was, so that you get the resources needed. I mentioned that this is a big part of a geospatial strategy. This is the introduction document that Esri has put out about geospatial strategy. You can get it at that URL. It's a short document. I would discuss it with your Esri account team if you need some assistance. Here's another great resource. This is an amazing book from Matt Lewin and Esri Canada, all about this business geospatial strategy stuff for managers. And it's really, really helpful. Another book and website available to you is the SmarterGov website. I would buy this book for the executive sponsors you want to do. This book is written from an executive perspective by former Governor and Mayor Martin O'Malley, and it will show them the value of technology to help them be a smarter government agency. And this website called Data Smart City Solutions is the same kind of thing. It's out of Harvard, and it really has great videos and podcasts and best practices and case studies on how technology is helping government organizations. I also want to steer you towards some peers to follow. These people, these 3 guys are doing amazing work at pushing out content about this strategy business side of GIS. Nathan is out of New Zealand, Matt's out of Canada, and Paul's out of Ireland. They're all do just quality stuff on leadership and strategic management of GIS. So here's the conclusion and call to action. Remember those 4 circles: understand the goals and challenges, deliver solutions. That will give you business value of GIS. That will give you alignment, and that will give you access to more resources. I know I'm running out of time here. So I want to follow up just a couple of things. Great quote from Ted Lasso. I'm a big Ted Lasso fan. Taking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse. If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. It is not part of our normal work to engage with executives and talk to them and elevate our visibility up to strategic importance in the organization, but it's the core to what we're supposed to be doing. And I guarantee if you do it, your professional and personal life will improve, as well as the situation with GIS in your organization. Last part is, as an evangelist, I need to inspire you. I don't want this presentation to be just another presentation. I want this to be the start of you doing something new with your organization, to increasing the value you're providing and to helping your organization become better every day. So please reach out to me, use these resources, talk to your Esri account team and our partners, align your work with the organizations, and you will feel the success of and possibility. Reach out to me by email. I'm active on Twitter, LinkedIn, and the Esri community as well. So with that, I will wrap it up and see if there's any questions. Don't see any in the QA. I see there's something in the chat. Cory said it's more than math. You're darn right, Cory, it is. And that's part of the problem that most organizations have, is that the people at the top don't understand the full potential and value that GIS can provide to their organization. So I don't see any others. So if that's it, I will go ahead and stop sharing. And then we are almost at the top of the hour. This session is supposed to stop at 1. Ethan, are you still in here? He's muted. Maybe can't get back on. All right. Well, thanks very much for the session and for attending. You're welcome, Denise. I see the comment there. Thanks for attending and taking time out of your day. And let me know if there's anything I can do to help out. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Y'all enjoy the rest of the conference.